Now let's take a look at the Nigerian market. Of course, the Nigerian market has been trading within a range recently. We saw it tick up slightly yesterday, and today we'll get some perspective on that market. Standing by to give us that is Abdul Garba. He's an analyst in investment research at Dunn Loren Merrifield. Abdul, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you on the show. I think the big news today is the fact that UBA's share price has been adjusted for that dividend. And the big question, of course, is where does the share price go from here? But your thoughts about where the market is trading right now before we get into that?
Okay, on the market right now, the NSE is trading around 37,000 points, which is a historical high coming from an area that was, it's at the level it was at about 2007, 2008,
Right.
essentially.
Right.
So,
Okay. So it's much higher than well, we're
it's
getting
much higher
closer to
than
that
recently
2008
seen
level.
levels. Yes.
Right. So that's significant. It's clearly at a year high. But let's move on to the story around UBA. Like I mentioned earlier, the share price has been adjusted for the dividend. And what do you think about investors buying into that stock right now? Because I was speaking to an analyst yesterday, and he suggested that a lot of people would not want to wait to receive the dividend, and that may have resulted in the selling pressure we saw in yesterday's session. So do you think the share price is likely to rally from here?
Yeah, well, we've seen some trading actually today. It looks to be on the upside actually for the stock despite the correction yesterday.
All right.
After taking profits from dividends, I think.
But do you think it's likely to be sustained? Is this a stock we should be buying right now?
Well, we're looking at 50 kobo on a stock that was trading around 8 naira.
Right, that's dividend.
Reasonable yield above 5%.
Absolutely, but should we be buying the stock now? I still ask that question. Do you think this is something that people should be piling into their portfolios right now?
Yeah, our opinion in UBA is not founded enough with the numbers and everything. It's looked discounted for a while. So yeah, we could for long run portfolios look at including UBA.
All right, if we can touch the other sectors, including cement, Dangote Cement, of course, is the big player in that space. Of course, we also have Waco Lafarge. These two companies in particular have outperformed the NSE this year. I want to get your thoughts on buying into that sector.
Yes, building materials, essentially, the cement companies have largely outperformed the index. It's a reflection of, there's not much reflection of changes going on in the industry, but more of profitability. It seems the numbers are actually tally with expectations.
All right, so we should be buying as well, you think? Some people say that Dangote Cement is a bit pricey at the current level.
They're good growth, they have good growth numbers, just as these other stocks have been feeding us with good returns as well. We've got good growth also coming from...
All right, so let's move on to other sectors. Of course, there is the banking space, we have insurance, we have foods and beverages. So talk to us through the interesting opportunities you're seeing across the market right now.
Sorry? I didn't get that.
I want to get your thoughts on interesting opportunities across the market, looking at sectors like banking, insurance, and food and beverages like you mentioned.
Okay, they remain the primary drivers for the exchanges level. And we're also looking at Dangote Cement playing a pivotal role in also pushing capitalization for the NSE.
All right, so but
you have the industrials, which constitute the cement and food and beverages, along with the conglomerates, which the conglomerates haven't been doing that well this year, but
if we're looking at the banks.
But the banks, yes, the banks have propped, they pushed significantly.
Right, focusing on the banks for a moment there. Tier 1 and Tier 2, where do you think one should be allocating more between the big Tier 1 banks and, of course, the smaller Tier 2 banks? Your thoughts?
Tier 1 banks look more visible. They are more visible. They're easy to see on any international domestic scape. Anyone, or their numbers and all that are easy to pick. But let's not forget that the Tier 2 banks, smaller in size, they're large in capitalization, but they could also get attention. Most of them, or let's say some of them, are actually discounted compared to their larger, the bigger brother banks, we want to put it.
All right, and in the insurance space, are there any exciting opportunities for you there?
Not really on the insurance space. There's nothing that comes out clear there.
Is that because you think everything has been priced in for the likes of Mansard, Continental Reinsurance? Those are names that we tend to hear a lot about if we're looking into that space.
Okay, for one, you have a lack of liquidity for a lot of insurance stocks. Not many of them actually trade sufficiently. There's not enough information to make informed decisions on buying there.
All right, so major liquidity risk is something for investors to think about.
It's an issue there, and secondly, also to do with the information you get from the sector. There's not much you can get.
All right, final thoughts on the market. It's up 32% this year. Where do you see it going from here?
Sorry, I think
your thoughts on the market. Like I mentioned, it's up 32% so far this year. So where do you see it going from here?
Well, as we said earlier, we've seen a very strong trend that we would assumed had come to rest at about 3,000 points. But going forward, we don't really see much in driving force in terms of earnings announcements, except of course if the numbers keep pushing from the industrials and the banking sector. There's a strong level of recovery from that, then we could see it going further. But given the current state, if there are no surprises and everything, we see 37,000 points as a strong level, but that could, as we've seen recently,